This again, just throwing something up really quick, extended takes, just giving some ideas as to some of the conversations that we're having earlier. And of course, I wanted to go a little bit deeper into my thoughts as to what's going on there. So, as far as what's going on, I just wanted to say earlier I was on the space. It was really interesting, actually. Great conversation. And it was about an ETF that was 2x gold, 2x Bitcoin, and they balance this as the price fluctuates and so forth. And one of the things that I was kind of talking about on the space, which we didn't really go into, was the fact that a lot of times when people talk about Bitcoin, they're talking about it pegged next to whatever fiat currency is in that particular country. Most times, depending where you are in the world, you're just going to use the US dollar. But some people, whether it's pounds, euros, whatever, the yen, and maybe even your local dollar, whatever it is, whatever currency that you have, you're going to look at it to see what it is in that local currency. But one thing that I find very interesting, because of course the proposition, there's multiple ways of looking at this whole thing. The original white paper, if you read that, it was digital cash. It was solving the problem of the double spend problem. So for example, if someone is spending money online, whether it is with a debit card, credit card, bank account transfer, whatever, there's a huge problem in the possibility of being able to spend your money twice that you actually don't have, and the other side doesn't really know that until they shipped out their goods or whatever it is. So the whole white paper is about peer-to-peer cash and everything, but we've evolved and moved to where most people, when they talk about it, they compare it as digital gold, and they're comparing gold with Bitcoin, all these different things, and there's a lot of confusion within the space. But then you have all these paper products, if you will, various ETFs, various derivatives of Bitcoin, and then there's a whole bunch of different things. And I put out a tweet or a post earlier that says, it's different strokes for different folks. Different people look at this thing very differently. There are the people that look at it, the original white paper, stay pure to the original vision and so forth, and then there's the people that are looking at it as an instrument to trade and all these different things. So the conversation was about this particular instrument, which is an ETF, and it's 2x leveraged gold, 2x leveraged Bitcoin, and this fund balances it. So as the values change, it then readjusts, if you will. So that's a simple explanation. If you want the full space, just go to Wolf Financial. It was their afternoon or evening space, the last 40 minutes or so, and you'll hear us asking a whole bunch of questions about that. But what I found very interesting in the whole thing is, when we're throwing it out there, I was talking about one thing that I personally find very interesting is if you are in the store value camp and you're trying to just hedge against inflation, protect your wealth, whatever it is, and you're looking at something as, well, the reason why I buy gold, hard gold, is because of its properties, and you're comparing it to what it costs to manually make a suit by hand back in the day and what it costs now, and then using that as your bar to say, this is how we're judging the value of gold compared to a dollar and so forth, right? So there is that camp. So this is where it gets really interesting to those people. So people that hold gold are typically much more risk adverse than the Bitcoin holder, right? The Bitcoin holder, on the other hand, would probably say, no, it's the other way around. They see gold as a much more higher risk, and they're going to be much more safer play having in Bitcoin, because worst case scenario, war breaks out, whatever it is, you can't protect your gold. You don't have an army, right? However, you can pick up and you can leave, because as long as you have your keys, I mean, you might be able to just memorize it, so it's in your brain, and you can ship out. So you might not even need your paper or your piece of iron, whatever it is that you're using to store this information. So, like, yes, you can just physically pack up and leave. But when you're talking about the risk and tolerance and all these different things, people are talking about the volatility. And of course, we know there's wild swings, and there's that argument that the wild swings are done, the days of institutions coming in, so retail will never have that whole effect again. And that's a completely different discussion. However, what I found really interesting within the whole thing is actually, if you wanted to compare the two together, as instead of looking at Bitcoin as what it is next to your fiat currency, in most cases the US dollar, look at it as what it is, how much gold can you buy with it. I find that very interesting. And I was talking about it a little bit on the space, that it's like, it's kind of interesting, because you have this whole, is it gold or is it Bitcoin? Like these two camps that are trying to preserve wealth, and they're going back and forth, which one is the better investment and so forth. And again, this is completely moving away from the whole white paper, digital cash, peer-to-peer solving the double spend problem and all that. I'm talking specifically to the camp. And that's one of those things when I'm having these discussions, talking about Bitcoin, talking to Bitcoiners, it's like, all right, which camp are you talking about? What are we really talking about? Let's define what we're talking about in this particular video, this particular conversation. And in this particular conversation, we're talking about a store of value, which like how gold historically has been. Times of uncertainty, when paper money goes crazy, all of these different things, people that want to go into a hard asset, and gold has been traditionally that thing. Well, in this case, there's some people that are saying, okay, no, that's what I use Bitcoin for. So that's what I'm comparing it to, and why I'm even bringing this up, the price of Bitcoin to gold. And the best way to even describe this, get into this topic or whatever it is just pull up the screen, because this is what I was looking at on the space. Those of you that were on the space and actually heard me speaking, this is what I was talking about right here. And of course, I am not switching scenes, but let's see here. This is, let's go producer. Like what's going on here? There we go. All right, so you can see this chart right here. And what's really interesting with this is how much gold you can buy with 1 Bitcoin. Now, let's just go over to here. So 1 Bitcoin could have bought you 14.13 ounces of gold in 2017. I'm just going to start over there for the sake of that's where this first peak is. That's things get really interesting. Then, of course, as Bitcoin plummets and, you know, the cycles and everything goes on, it goes down to 6. Then it bounces back up and it goes all the way around here. And then it dips down here, a low of around 2 point, whatever this is, 2.66. It goes to 3 and like all these different numbers, and it's going up again. It comes back up to 7.94. So 1 Bitcoin in 2019 could have got you 7.94 ounces of gold. Very interesting, right? Okay, so then of course all this craziness happens, up and down, up and down. Here we go, same old story again. But if you look over here, this is where it starts to get really interesting now. In 2021, so this is April. Yeah, I'm trying to January, February, March, April 4, 12, 21. This is 34 ounces of gold that you could get with 1 Bitcoin. Then, of course, zoop, goes all the way down here, goes down to 17, climbs back up to 35.6. Then, of course, the same thing happens again. We have bear markets, the price, all sorts of different things happening. And right now, gold is on a ridiculous run. So those that are in the gold camp, they are having a great time. They're talking about various banks and so many people that are going into gold hardcore, retail's coming to gold. And as you can see right here, it's going back up. How much gold? Of course, Bitcoin hit its all-time high. All these different things are happening as this adjusts. So 2024, this is December. So this is the end of last year. It was all the way up to 37.52. Now, all those things that I just said, when Chase starts to fly in gold, oh, it goes up to 38, excuse me. So the 16th of December, it goes up to 38.2 ounces of gold for 1 Bitcoin. Then, of course, all this starts to happen and it dips. This is where it bottoms out at 25.64. So at this point right now, all of the people that would have said, you know, in one camp or the other, you know, when these wild swings actually happen, say, look, right here, you can only buy 25 ounces of gold with 1 Bitcoin. Therefore, the gold camp would have been like, oh, yeah, you should have been in gold the whole time, of course. Then we have this record run. Of course, after the election and everything, Bitcoin starts to run up. How much gold can you actually buy with 1 Bitcoin? It peaks off around 35.64. So why is that even interesting? Peaks off at around 35.64. Now, of course, we're dancing around all-time highs, all this different stuff. But the demand for gold has also shot up. So now, at this current date, where we're at right now, 1 Bitcoin buys 31.52 gold. So, as you can see, it's not at the all-time high. Right here, you could have bought more gold than you could right here. Now, is that saying that one asset is better than the other? Let me go back to the other screen right here, where I'm actually looking at this, and it's me. Am I saying that one asset is better than the other? Am I saying that you should be in the gold camp, you should be in the Bitcoin camp or whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm way more gung ho about Bitcoin than I am about gold. Actually, I don't even own any gold other than jewelry, right? I don't invest in gold, store wealth in gold, or anything of that nature. So when I say, and I'm bringing out this chart and I'm saying that when Bitcoin actually isn't at its all-time high for how much gold you can buy, I'm not saying go buy gold. Neither am I saying, hey, if you're in gold, go sell all your gold and go buy Bitcoin. I mean, to each their own. Each person has their own risk tolerance, and also they have their own values and so forth. So when I put out that tweet earlier, the post earlier, and I said different strokes for different folks, because people have different risk tolerances. They're going to evaluate things very differently. And, there's this whole argument of this should be like another video in itself, which asset is the best asset and so forth, because Saylor always says by far the best asset is Bitcoin and all this. And people repeat this as if it is gospel, but let's just go to the extreme. Let's say you're on a deserted island and you are dying of thirst, right? The most valuable asset to you right now is water, right? I know, crazy scenario. How are you going to compare Bitcoin to water? But I'm talking about value, right? So when we're having this argument, Bitcoin versus gold, all of these different things, value is in the eye of the beholder. There is a person that actually physically wants to hold their gold, and that gives them peace and comfort and whatever. You can tell them all you want that, look, if the army shows up at your door right now, they're going to take that gold from you and there's nothing you can do. They still have that comfort and peace of mind, and they value the physical hard block of gold, holding that gold bar, knowing very well they can't defend it. They might get more peace of mind and sleep way better until that day comes when somebody takes it. On the flip side, someone saying, well, you can lose your keys, this could happen, solar flares can knock out the whole grid, you name it, all of these different things, quantum attacks, you just go down the list of all the reasons why people will argue as to why Bitcoin is not safe, whatever. Like, people will be like, okay, like, that makes absolutely no sense, and you and your value of gold, your value of stock markets, ETFs, paper Bitcoin, whatever it might be, is ridiculous to me, and I'm going to stick to holding my Bitcoin. Like, that's where I'm at. I have my coins. They're my keys. They're in my full custody. Nobody could pry these out of my dead hands, and so forth. Like, if I die for this, that's where it goes. It's just going to stay in that wallet. That is a very different value proposition, full control, all the different things. Then the person's going to see with gold. So where am I going with all this? So the whole argument going back and forth, oh, which one's a better asset? What is more valuable? So forth. Again, it's in the eye of the beholder. Just because I feel a certain way about a particular asset doesn't mean that the next person's going to. And going back to my extreme, crazy water on an island analogy, right? If you are dying of thirst, I guarantee you, whether you have gold or Bitcoin is not going to be on your mind. Now, there's also that argument like, oh, well, what if gold becomes invaluable? War breaks out, World War II, or World War II, terrible. World War III breaks out, and all the gold is being confiscated and all these different things. Well, even in that case, if the world is in complete chaos, like nuclear disaster, even the person holding Bitcoin has bigger problems to worry about than their monetary value. Get it? So it's like all of these things. You can throw whatever you want. You could say alien invasions, the return of Jesus, you name it, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, people are going to value what they're going to value. And I think it's almost like a waste of energy to try to argue with someone, because it's like what they value, right? What makes someone sleep better at night, what they put a value on, that's their prerogative, right? It's almost like trying to convince somebody what their favorite color is. And, like all these guys that are, put so much effort into, arguing and saying it, it's like, whatever. I mean, if that's your thing, cool, good for you. But that's just where I'm at. And I could see either way. If you're an ETF person, whatever, cool, whatever, that's your thing. If you're a gold person, cool, that's your thing. If you're a Bitcoin person, I'm like, all right, cool, let's talk Bitcoin. So I like to talk about circular economies. Most Bitcoiners that I know, especially in the States, like, they don't even understand or value the whole circular economy, spending your Bitcoin, because it's not a problem that needs to be solved in the States or Europe or in Switzerland or someone with a very strong, stable currency, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, that is not something that's going to be valued as much as someone who is in a hyperinflation economy, where they're literally shaving zeros off of the dollar to readjust, and it's just like crazy things. And they're thinking, well, if I buy blocks to build my house today, it's going to cost double tomorrow, so might as well spend as much as I possibly can today because I know it's going to cost more tomorrow. That's a very different proposition than what's happening in the States, Switzerland, or wherever else. And they're like, yeah, I just want to spend my Bitcoin because I know the blocks are going to cost less sats tomorrow than they're going to cost today. And that's a very, very, very different proposition. So you talk to that person and you tell them, no, hold on to their Bitcoin, never spend it, lock it down, hodl, hold on for dear life, blah, 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 blah. Very different language. So I said all that to say this. At the end of the day, value is in the eye of the beholder, and I just want to extend my thought on that. And feel free to argue it out. Let me see. Just go to the comments because last time I absolutely forgot to go to the comments to see what's up. Hey, speaking of what's up, Wolf Bitcoin, what's up? Thank you. Appreciate that. And Cade, GM. Awesome. Yeah, man, Cade. So great. So by the way, that was the conversation earlier. That was on Wolf Financial, and obviously that I just pulled up comment there. Wolf Bitcoin. If you're into Bitcoin, you're into all this stuff. A million different ways to have a conversation about this stuff. Just check out the spaces, check out the live streams, all of those different things, and of course, feel free to weigh in. And I'm open to it. I'm secure about it. You can tell me I'm a complete idiot. Like, hey, doesn't matter to me. I find your take, your opinion valuable. So please let me know if you disagree with everything I said. Just tell me why I'm wrong, whatever. I'm not going to go home crying, and I'm not going to take it personal. If anything, I'd be like, yeah, thank you. At least you gave me some engagement, right? That's how I'm going to look at it. So, don't feel like you're knocking me or anything. Other than that, I will see you guys later. And by the way, lots of spaces coming up. Stay tuned to the page. As I'm on spaces, I'll tweet them out, all these different things. So I would say at least minimum, I'm probably on 10 different spaces. So let's say tomorrow, I know for sure I have like Caribbean chat. I have, anyways, just watch just watch this page. A lot of things are